Hi, I'm Mari Dangerfield and welcome to my guide to the Stylophone 350S. The aim will be to get you guys through the technical aspects, some basic functions, and to introduce you guys to some really interesting settings, both from the dubreq guide and some that I've come up with. If you enjoyed this video, please remember to hit the thumbs up button and subscribe to my channel if you're new. I'll also mention just very quickly that I've got a new single coming out on the 3rd of May 2019 called Hardwired, so do check that out if you get the chance. Right, let's get started. The Stylophone 350S has a 6.5 octave range. It goes from A 2.5 octaves below middle C to E 4.5 octaves above middle C. It takes two PP9 batteries, which go in the underside compartment. This is the on switch. Rocking this switch up or down means it's on, and off is in the neutral position. Then over here we've got the photo control. This is a very cool tool on the 350S that acts as a sort of theremin kind of thing. It's got a light dependent resistor, and so when you're putting your hand on there, it's doing some very interesting things which we'll talk about in just a moment. This is the volume knob, so obviously anti-clockwise is volume down, clockwise is volume up, and you want to use that not just in terms of volume but for some very specific reasons with the settings, which will be clear in just a moment. And then you've got the two photo control switches. This is the wah-wah switch, which is what I would call, or what dubreq calls, a muted kind of brass effect when it's used in conjunction with the hand. And then what you've got over here is the vibrato photo switch, which is to be used in conjunction with this section of the switches. And here you have decay. The top one is a short decay and the bottom one is a long decay. That's for when you're playing the notes on the keyboard here, just as you would on another type of stylophone, such as the S1. Then over here you've got the reiteration switches. This one is a short reiteration and this one is a long reiteration. Now this has a very specific use because you've got two styluses here, and this stylus is the main one that you use and it's called stylus 1. But for the reiteration settings, you also use stylus 2, and stylus 2 must be on the right hand side of stylus 1 to produce the stuttering sound. Now I really want to show you guys how the reiteration control works. So first of all, stylus 2, which is this one, has got to be on the right hand side of stylus 1 so that they can be played together. Usually making harmony, but it can be anything you like. So let's start by playing something on stylus 1. So it sounds like a kind of a telephone effect when you think about it, but at the same time I feel like it's meant to be some kind of mandolin-y type effect, or even a super quick vibrato sound. But it's a really interesting choice anyway to have on the 350S, and I often wonder why they did that and why they didn't just use two normal sounding styluses. But it's a really cool effect at the same time, and it's the only stylophone where you can actually place two styluses on the keyboard at once and get a sound. So it's pretty unique and pretty special for that reason, I think. Then over here you've got the vibrato switches. This is the fast vibrato and this is the slow vibrato. As I was saying earlier, that's used in conjunction with the vibrato photo switch. Then over here you've got some numbers and you've got woodwind, brass and strings. The numbers refer to the length of the organ pipes, and the smaller the number, the higher the octave. This was a design choice to make life easier for organists, because organists would recognise this kind of function from playing the organ. And each octave, so this is the highest octave, 2, for example, has two variations caused by the oscillator creating different filter settings. So you've got one like this, and one like that. The next thing I want to show you guys is how to tune the 350S, and you do that using this tuning knob over here, but you've also got to use some very specific settings. As it says here in the guide for the 350S, you need to put it into these settings. then originally you were meant to use the vinyl that came with the 350S to tune it to that, but I didn't have that, so I just use what I use in my modern day situation, which is a tuner that's on my phone. So then what we do is we take Stylus 1, just play it, and we check it with this, and then turn the tuning knob accordingly until it's in tune. Then over here we've got the output, the pedal, and the input. So for the input, you can plug in anything here that you want to sound through the 350S speaker with the 350S as well. So if you're playing something on the 350S, that will go through the speaker with it. Otherwise, you can also plug in something to the output, such as an amp, and all the sound will go that way instead. With the output, you can plug in a pair of headphones to practice, for example, or an external amp if you want to perform. Or, as I've done here, you can plug a cable in and send that into an interface to record the sound. And the particular cable that I use is a Fender 1/4 inch TS male to 1/4 inch TS male 10-inch long cable. And with the pedal, you have exactly the same thing going on as with the Piano Mate guide, which if you haven't seen, by the way, I will link to right now in the description and in a card that will pop up. You literally plug in the expression pedal. So I've got this one, which is an M-Gear EXP, and anything you do in terms of the photo control with your hand gets overridden, and you can do it with the pedal instead. And so the equivalents are going to be, if the pedal is flipped forwards, it's going to be as close to the photo control as possible, and if the pedal is flipped backwards, that's going to be as far away from the photo control as possible, or basically completely disengaged from the photo control. So now I want to show you guys in practice how the photo control can work. So what we're going to do first of all is some basic dynamic control. So we're going to switch on the 350S, take out Stylus 1, and then we can switch on any of these 4 switches. I'm going to go with switch number 16. Then we turn the volume on to max, and then we want to start playing some notes and move our hand up and down over the photo control. And then you can see that as you move your hand over it, you can get really loud, you can get really quiet. And then you can do this as you're playing something, so. So it's really a really good way to control dynamics in a very interesting way, as if you're playing, say, a violin or an oboe, anything. You can really take control of dynamics in a very detailed way by using the photo control. So the next photo control effect I want to show you guys is called the trombone effect, and it brings this guy into play. So we want to switch the volume down to halfway for this one, because it can be very, very loud. Then we want to switch on the photo wah-wah switch, and then we want switch 16 to be on for the brass, which it already is. And then we want to get Stylus 1 and start playing something. So that's got quite a brassy sound, hasn't it, that one? And then we want to cup our hand over that, like that. And it gives us a sort of a muted brass effect, like when the wah-wah mute is put inside the trombone. And it's really quite a nice effect. And then the next thing I want to show you guys is how to use basic vibrato control. So now we want to switch from the wah-wah to the vibrato photo setting. And then we have to use one of these vibrato switches for this to work. So I'm going to go with the fast vibrato. And then again, we've got to get stylus 1, and we've got to cover the photo control with our hand. And as you can hear, hopefully, while I'm putting my hand over the photo control, the vibrato starts, and when I pull it away, the vibrato stops. So in that sense, you can be playing something and you can have some notes that are kind of straight and some notes that you want to add a bit of vibrato to. So let's demonstrate that. I think this one sounds really nice on a woodwind setting as well. So again, you've got a really nice way to control some kind of expressiveness of the notes, which is really, really lovely. And then if you plug a pedal in here, everything that we've just done with our hand could be done with the pedal instead. So let's do the vibrato with the pedal, just to demonstrate that. I'm not sure if you can hear how when I'm moving my foot forwards on the pedal, the vibrato is coming in, and when I'm moving it back, it's fading out. But that's essentially what it does. And if you try and do it with your hand, as you can hear, it then doesn't work because you've got the pedal plugged in, which overrides all of that. So the next thing I want to show you guys are some of the settings from the Stylophone 350S guide by dubreq. The first setting is used on a tune called Souvenir d'Italie, and it uses stylus 1, and I just call this setting the synthy sound. Let's hear what it sounds like. The next setting is used on Amazing Grace, and I call it a kind of recorder or piccolo sound. Let's hear what it sounds like. So as you can see, this setting has the slow vibrato function selected, so it's clear that they wanted this kind of recorder and piccolo-y sound, and for you to bring in the vibrato to taste at the ends of certain notes, which I think sounds really nice. This next setting is used on Moon River, and I call it the fast vibrato honky sound. This next setting is for Fly Me to the Moon, and I call it the short decay, pipey / glitchy synth sound. The next setting I call the full and mellow oboe wah-wah sound, and it's used on more. Let's hear what it sounds like. This next setting I call the fast beeping reiteration synth, and it's used on Spanish eyes. Now the next bunch of settings I want to show you guys from the dubreq guide are the actual instrument settings, which are all on this page over here. And the first setting I'm going to be showing you guys is this one here, which is the oboe. Let's have a listen to it. So as you can see for the oboe, I've got the photo wah-wah switch engaged, and I've also got number 16 on the brass setting. And it says here that it also wants you to put your hand on the photo control as part of using it. So as you can hear, it's already a much more muted and more mellow sound. So I think that's why they wanted you to put your hand there. The next setting I want to show you guys is the trumpet setting, which is the second one down here. This is the muted trumpet. So we've got the photo wah-wah switch, and we've also got the number 8 brass switch engaged. And here's what they sound like. And then you've got this third setting over here, which is the muted trombone setting. And then after that you've got this setting over here, which is the trumpet with no mute. So all you've got is number 8 brass engaged. And then after that you've got the trombone with no mute. So for that one you've got the slow vibrato and number 16 brass engaged. And then the next setting is the bassoon setting. For that one you've got the vibrato photo control engaged, and you've got the fast vibrato setting engaged. Then at the very bottom of the page here you've got the piccolo setting. For that one you've got the vibrato photo control, you've got the slow vibrato, and then you've got number 4 in the woodwind. Next on this side of the page here we've got the tin whistle setting. For that we've got the vibrato photo control, and we've got number 2 in the woodwind. As you can hear, particularly very high up, this really does sound a lot like a tin whistle, surprisingly. Then we've got the flute setting over here. That uses the photo control, plus we've got slow vibrato, and we've got number 6 on the woodwind. I'd say that very much higher up on the keyboard it sounds like a flute. A bit lower down it's going to be more one of those kind of bass flutes, which are a bit rare, but I suppose so. Then after that we've got the banjo setting. The banjo setting uses the wah-wah plus the fast reiteration. And then we've got number 16 on the brass. So definitely going for something quite fast and reiterated here, because we're using stylus 2 for this one. So clearly the designer had something quite almost flamenco-y in mind with that banjo, although I'm not sure it quite pulls it off there, but it's still an interesting idea, definitely. Next up we've got the piano setting over here, and that's using the vibrato photo control plus a long decay, plus we've got the strings number 4 and number 2. So with this one, even if you hold the stylus down, the notes are very, very short. So definitely, when you've got decay engaged, it's definitely still going to swipe away much quicker than if you don't have it engaged. And I'd say that this doesn't really sound like a piano, but it does sound a bit more like a keyboard than some of the other settings. So I know what they were going for there. Then next we've got the clarinet setting. That's going to be using, again, the photo control, then we've got the slow vibrato, and then we've got number 8 on the woodwind engaged. So again, we're going back to almost that sort of fluty, piccolo-y sound, but in a bit of a more mellow way to get to that clarinet sound. Then we've got the violin. That's using the vibrato photo setting plus the quick vibrato. And then we've got number 8 on the brass engaged. So to me that definitely doesn't sound like a violin, but it has got vibrato, which is nice, and it's definitely got its own distinctive sound there. So that's really interesting. And then lastly, in the dubreq settings, we've got the harmonica. And for the harmonica, we have to have our hand over the photo control, it says, to produce the vibrato. So we've got photo control on the wah-wah setting, and then we've got number 8 in the brass engaged. So again, it's not quite a harmonica, but when we use the photo control with our hand over it in a really fast motion, we do get a slight sense of the harmonica. So I see what they were going for. And yeah, it's not a bad sound at all. I really like it, actually. And last but not least, I want to show you guys some of the settings that I've discovered on the 350S through playing in the Stylophone Orchestra. This is, after all, the 350S belonging to the Stylophone Orchestra. And the first setting I'm going to show you guys is the squeaky every heartbeat setting, I call it, because I used it when we played with Every Heartbeat by Robin. So what we've got is the photo wah-wah engaged, and then we've got number 4, number 8 and number 16. And what that does, I found, is that you've got several octaves together, so it adds a slight extra thickness to the sound. However, actually what I did in the concert was something slightly different, which is another setting I really like. So I had number 4 still there. I then moved number 8 up to the woodwind and I turned off number 16. And this is what it sounds like. And then the third setting I want to show you guys today is what I call the Robots Low Quirky Synth setting, which is what I used on We Are the Robots in the concert for the Stylophone Orchestra. So here we've got the photo wah wah engaged, and then we've got number 4 and number 2 from the woodwind, and then we've got number 16 from the brass. So it's got a quite nice sort of striking and menacing little sound to it. And if you really want extra punch as well, you can use the decay settings, either the short or long one. So there you have it in terms of the settings. I hope to have more to show you guys soon. Thank you for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed my guide to the Stylophone 350S. There will be more videos on the 350S in future, I'm sure. As always, please remember to hit the thumbs up button and subscribe to my channel if you're new, and go and check out my single Hardwired if you get the chance. I'd love to know what you think. Thank you so much, and I'll see you very soon for another video.